Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Welcome to the Camino Cafe podcast, right from the heart of the Camino Frances and Rabanal del Camino. I'm Leigh Brennan, your host. I'm a pilgrim from the United States, and currently I'm living in Spain. Grab a drink, pull up a chair. It's Pilgrim story time at the Camino Cafe. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Camino Cafe. I'm super excited today to have Roger back here at the Camino Cafe. The last time that we spoke with him, he was in Astorga taking a small break during his Camino, and he has been kind enough to agree to talk again after he's been home. And I think what you've been home about a month and a half, 2 months?
2.5 months. So we got back September 2nd, and it's now mid-November, so late November, so a little over 2.5 months.
So we talked about mid-August, and I think you started your Camino in Saint Jean, so you did the Frances route, and you had just arrived in Astorga, and you'd already had lots of things happening up until that point. And then your Camino continued after our talk, and your partner Ruth joined you in Sarria, and you eventually then walked into Santiago, and now you're back home in Seattle. And I'm super excited to catch up with you and hear about the rest of your journey from Astorga to Santiago, as well as what's happened since you got home, because we all know re-entry can be tough, and your Camino doesn't stop in Santiago. It just keeps on going, as we say.
Yeah, it's a little weird being here and you being there. The roles are a little reversed as far as locations, and there's some jealousy involved in that, but I will do my best not to let that show.
Yeah, so I should say I'm in Spain right now. The Camino Frances is directly behind me right now, and I used to live in Seattle. So yes, we have traded spots a little bit, and fresh off my Camino, and so I can identify with some of the Camino blues and trying to get back into reentry. So I guess let's start with, we last spoke in Astorga, and maybe kind of catch us up. What happened after you left Astorga, and can you mention any highlights from Astorga to Santiago for yourself?
Yeah, I think that I left Astorga, and I was dealing with some tendonitis. It was pretty bad, and that was a struggle. There were days where I would walk half a day and then grab a taxi. I admittedly did not, tackle the hill to Osobrio. That was something I was not going to do. I took an extra day in Samos to go to the monastery. And I think that was probably one of the highlights before I got to Sarria. It was because the people the pilgrims I've been walking with were skipping that staying there. I decided that I was going to take a day of silence and go to the monastery and visit in silence and enjoy the service and just be there up until after. I took silence up until after the service was over, so about 8:00, and rolled into Samos, and several of the pilgrims I had been walking with were there and also caught up to me. So we had a 3-4 hour struggle with charades. That was great. Because I refused. I was like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to keep this, because I thought it would be easy. I wouldn't know anybody. I wouldn't see anybody. And then here are 4 or 5 pilgrims that I run into that I loved, and so that was a hard day, but it was super funny because I'm sitting here trying to play charades with them and not talking, and they were not good charades partners at all. So it was very difficult. But they did the tour and took off, and so the second half of the day was a little bit easier for the service. But it was a fun day because it was it was challenging but entertaining at the same time. So
I'm curious what made you decide to take this day in silence, because when we were talking last time, you were talking a lot about struggling with that kind of feeling like you were fitting in, feeling a little bit lonely. There have been some days around Logroño where there was a lot of loneliness, not seeing many people, and that was really important to you to feel a part of something. So I'm curious, how did this idea of taking this day of silence and kind of breaking from the group that you had formed, how that came about?
So part of it was that they were getting ready to move a little bit faster pace through the final stages, and that I knew I was taking that night to stay in Samos. So I knew that they were moving on. I most likely wouldn't see them again. I think they got to Santiago almost 3 days before I did. Okay. So it was very. So I knew that I wasn't going to see them again, and that was also part of the great thing between those two stages, or from Stroga to there, was that I did find this group. The first group that I was with, beginning, there weren't very many Americans in that group, and which is not a problem. It was, I have tons of friends in Italy now, several friends in Spain and France and French Guiana and Israel and all sorts of places. But so it was. So I was able to find and help build and get into some more community after that point that we talked. And so I was getting ready to meet my partner, who had been traveling around Spain, as you said, in Sarria, to finish up. So I just wanted to take like one day. I had been given some advice from a pilgrim that had done this multiple times, who said, I've done what you're doing before, and just have to understand that it's no longer your pilgrimage. It's not no longer your Camino. It's our Camino. And so I was just, and my partner had said to me multiple times, we had watched lots of stuff together, and had friends that had done this, and said, when that last stage walking to Santiago, I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to have some contemplation before I walked into the plaza. And my partner was very adamant of wanting to support me in that process, as I had walked the whole way, right. Or traveled the whole way, and so there was definitely a sense of wanting for me to have that kind of experience. Yeah. And in my mind, I was like, no, it's going to be our Camino, and we're going to do that together, and I don't have to have that space, but I kind of did want it, so that's why I was taking it in Samos. Was before I went to met her, was I wanted to take that contemplative time of just being a little silent, being a little introspective before I met up with her, and then we could do the rest together. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how, we set off to go on this pilgrimage, which is a solo trip most of the time, or maybe with one loved one. Yet once we're on the trail, we tend to form these families, and we end up making a lot of friends. And I'm just curious why you think that happens. And did you find times that you kind of wished you were a little bit more on your own?
For me, no, not at all. I don't remember if I said this the last podcast, but I'll say it again, that there's some people that their goal is to get to Santiago and to get their Compostela, and that's they want that. There are some people that want to take the journey and see all the sites and visit all the places and do all that. And for me, it was more, I want to go and be part of this community and helping build that, as well as helping build that community. So that was what was primary for my community was to do that. So for me, I didn't find it difficult because that's why I was there. And that's why I wanted to get out of it. That's why I left. That's why to do it. And I knew that it would probably happen, but that I also had the responsibility of making that happen. And I did meet and see people that were quiet, introspective, had things they needed to work out. At the same time, eventually, I think everybody comes around to being a part of it. You can do it solo. You can do it quiet the whole way. You can, do it without other people. But I just, when you get on that rhythm of you're falling on the same stages with the same people all the time,
Right.
I think that it's almost impossible, but not. And one of my experiences, I think, is Colorado, where there was an Italian woman who had been very standoffish about joining in and being around others and not really engaging with other people. Our albergue had a pool, and it was August, so it was nice. So we were kind of having a pool party as everybody was rolling into the albergue. And she came out and she was there, and her attitude was completely different. And she came to dinner with us that night, and it was just different. I think even if you try to do it that way, being quiet and serene and all those things, eventually I think you should give in to some level. And I also think that it's super helpful. The Italian kids that I became close with, and I say kids, they're in their 20s, but they didn't know each other before they got on the plane from Italy to get to St. Jean. And but by the second or third day in, everybody had a role. One person looked for the food where the grocery store was, and one person always made the arrangements for everybody for the albergues and each day. And so those units or families or pods form, and they're kind of necessary. I mean, just from not a survival instinct, it's a survival standpoint. It's not like they're couldn't do it on your own, but I just think there's something so communal about sharing that experience that it's just natural. It's very natural.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm missing my latest Camino family very much right now, so I can totally identify. I want to talk a little bit about your tendonitis. That seemed to be your big physical challenge throughout your entire Camino. Is this something that you had dealt with in the past in Seattle, or was it just a whole new Camino thing for you?
That was a whole new Camino thing for me. And because community is so important and vital, I wanted to keep up with my Camino family. And so there were some days that I walked partial days. Some days I walked full days. Some days I took a cab the entire stage because I wanted to wind up to be with those people at the end of the night. And that was hard because it was very, it started wearing on me from the standpoint that I wanted so desperately to be out walking with them. So that was the most painful part of it, was that I wanted to walk with them. But at the same time,
I was just going to ask, did that lead into maybe the injury with the tendonitis, like trying to maybe walk too fast or do something to keep up with the group? Or what do you think led to the situation with you suffering from tendonitis?
Definitely, I think that's something I didn't mentally prepare for, was the whole process of saying, okay, I know where I'm starting in the morning. I know where I'm ending at the end of the day to be with everybody else. How long it takes me to get there doesn't really matter. as long as I get there. But at the same time, the pressure of, okay, I want to get to the albergue, I want to get a shower, I want to wash my clothes, and I want to be available for that family time, for that group time. And so that's really where I think some of the pressure was, to go faster. Instead of just saying, hey, when I get there, I'll have time. It's that fear of missing out, the FOMO. I think that's what pushed me a little bit too hard. And then how I survived, because I basically wound up walking all the last 7 days. And so so it was, and 5 of those were with my partner. And I knew that I knew if I was going to get a Compostela, I at least wanted to walk the 100K. So and not cheat, so to speak. Because the other 690K was really about the community. And so that's really why I was there, traveling those kilometers, and just making sure that those last 5 days or so, 6 days, that I did not cheat, and I earned, if I have a Compostela, I earned it. So
I'm curious. I'm now looking back at your preparation, because the Camino had been on your bucket list, but of course you were working full time, you were in Seattle, and training's hard. I just wondered, would you do anything differently now looking back in your preparation? Did you walk with your backpack full in Seattle? Did you do any kind of training, or what was that like? I can't remember.
So I was had gotten up to about 9 miles a day, and out in the Camino it's 15 to 18 miles. And so I did not do pack work, but I really do think my issues physically were more about the speed at which I was going than anything, not being physically prepared. Because I do believe that there's not a whole lot you can do to prepare. Your body just kind of has to get used to it, right? Get out there and you do it. I think I didn't mentally prepare that it wasn't a race. And I think that's really what I didn't prepare for. That I could have easily just, been as good as I was. My pack was too heavy at the beginning, so that's part of it. I took too big of a pack, but at the same time, I think that it's all about that mental understanding of what you're getting yourself into. And exactly. I should be able to walk. If it takes me 5 hours to do 20 kilometers, or it takes me 8 hours to do 20 kilometers, it shouldn't matter. And you'll get there. And I just didn't have that understanding of what I was getting myself into, I think, at the time.
I of course was following you as you were walking, and you had a post about the judgment coming your way. About taking the taxi. So I want to talk a little bit about that. You had a very cute reel, I think, playing a Billy Joel song.
It's my life.
It's my life. So let's talk a little bit about judgment on the Camino, because I certainly felt that during my last Camino on a couple of topics. And I just wondered, how that came about, how that felt, and what, made you make that post and say, hey, it's my life. How did that all develop?
Yeah. The majority of that judgment was very interesting to me, because the majority of that judgment came from people that had done the Camino before.
You mean people at home watching you walk?
No,
or
people on the walk that had already done it before.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting, because to me, the people that hadn't done it before, like, yeah, it's your Camino. Because we all know that expression, and we all know that, before we go and after we've been home, it's your Camino. Do it the way you want to, and that's really why I was so shocked, because I was getting that more from people that had never done it before, that it's your Camino, than people that had done it. So that was really, really odd.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it really was. And so the bulk of it came from one pilgrim that I think he's done the walk probably about almost 15, 20 times. And it was just like, wow, dude, I mean, you've had to have struggled at some point when you've done this. Why you have no empathy at all for me?
Well, what was the point? Was she suggesting that you just stop and rest, or what was the judgment?
I think
there was solution?
I think there was some of that. I also think that there was some, it's a very American, and it mostly came from either Americans or British people. But But I think it's that whole issue of completion. And then if I walk into Santiago and I go to the office and I get a Compostela that, don't get one that says you walked 780 miles, because that would be cheating. And, so I put cheating in quotes a couple of seconds ago, and that was, it was, which to me is just competition. It's just like, why does that matter?
Right.
So, but I did have, like I said, those last five stages or 100K. I wanted to at least be able to say I walked all of that. So that was also an impetus for me to take taxis and to rest, and sit in the plazas and wait and just be waiting for people to roll in. And that was fun for me. That was enjoyable. Was, I sat in a place where I knew everybody was going to pass by. And that I knew, and I was able to say, hey, and cheer them on, and be, it's like, hey, you finished, you made it today. It's kind of what it became, was this person that was always cheerleading people on. And I don't feel bad about that in any stretch of the imagination. That, good to have somebody like that in your life that's cheering you on, and is excited to see you when you've been struggling for, I get it. But resting like I did and taking taxis and doing that stuff made it so, because by the time I got to Celia, my partner, and we started walking together, I was much better. And I was able to walk. I mean, it wasn't like completely without pain, but I was able to walk those last 5 stages. And I feel good about that. I feel good about the whole thing. I don't feel bad about it. And
I think that's part of self-care, is like you knew that you or your body needed a break. You made a decision on how you were going to take those breaks. And, for anybody that's watching today or listening, you did have a specific date that you had to be in Syria because Ruth was coming. And you had a specific date to be in Santiago because you guys had your home flights, I think, already scheduled.
Yeah.
So you had to make a choice of either taking the taxi or I don't know, you wouldn't have made those, those time frames. So
right. And that was the biggest takeaway for me as I talked to other people. Ruth has a niece that is kind of interested, a young niece that's interested in doing it. And we were talking with her the other day, and I was like, 40 days, just plan for 40 days. And if you use it all, great. If you don't, great. Don't worry about it. But the plan for 40 days, and don't buy a return ticket until you get to Santiago. It's just like, I was just, those are the biggest piece of advice I could give her.
I think that's a great piece of advice, because I think you originally were trying to do this in 27, 28 days.
Yeah, 28 days, I think is what it was.
Which is aggressive. And I think, I think the Brierley book, what is that, 33 days? And even that, I think, seems aggressive at times. If you're wanting to do some sightseeing, if you have any type of issue with your body, it takes longer than 33 days, I think, to walk that full amount.
If you could do it in less than 33 days, having days of rest, or being able to say, oh, I'm Leon's kind of cool city, I think I'll stay here an extra day. Being able to make those decisions, having the what I would call margin in your trip, to be able to have the space to write something different than what you thought was going to be the case.
Yeah.
So.
And I know it's really difficult sometimes to get that extra time off work, but for those of you listening or watching, if you haven't watched it, if you do have that freedom to have a wider margin, as Roger is saying, I think it's really important to give yourself that extra time if you can afford it. So I want to talk about another topic that came up with a lot of judgment, is you had that kind of semi-nude picture at the 100-kilometer marker, and it was tastefully done, in my opinion.
Thanks.
But you had this photo, and you posted on Instagram, and you had some comments out there and some reactions. So I wonder if we want to talk about that a little bit. And
sure.
Looking back, are you glad you did that post? Ruth was with you. I'm assuming Ruth took the photo at that point. So she knew you were doing it. So luckily no reaction there. But Yeah, so what happened? Tell us a little bit about that. And if you haven't followed Roger on his Instagram account, it's Crosser Offer. So make sure you
Crosser
check
dot
out
offer. Yeah.
Crosser dot Offer.
Yeah.
So make sure you check it out and see this photo that we're talking about. But anyway, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I just tell the story that Ruth and I met in Sarnia, and that was the first day we were walking. And so we didn't leave. We stayed in a hotel that night.
Yeah.
So that we could enjoy ourselves and have some good rest before we started, since she was freshly starting, her journey, and I was still kind of rehabbing my leg. And so we didn't leave the hotel till like 9:30, which on Camino time is late. Right? Everybody else is gone for the most part. Everybody else is gone. And so when we got to that point on the trail, there was nobody there. We only had, I think, 3 pilgrims pass by, two right before I started taking off my clothes. This is so weird. 2 right before I was going, and 1 walked by as I think I hadn't taken off my underwear yet. But we knew him because we had been walking with him a little bit and talked to him. So that one was okay.
So you did strip down completely for this photo.
Oh yes.
Oh my goodness.
I had my hat. I took my hat off and put it in front of me. So yeah.
And what made you do this?
I thought it would be funny. I thought there was an opportunity there because there was no one else there. So it was like, nobody's, no one's around. If I can do this, and I was hoping it would garnish some attention, and for what I was attempting to do, and the funny thing of putting the tagline, sponsor me, and trying to reach out to some companies and that kind of stuff, just for fun to see what happened. Nothing did, and that's fine. but yeah, it was just, I thought about it, and so I did it. I think that's kind of, and we can talk about this a little later, but that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life. Was like, if I like it, enjoy it, think it's fun, I'm just going to do it. And if you have a problem with it, I'm sorry for you, right? That you can't see my joy in that. And it's, for some people, they're like, I don't understand what's just new. But coming from American culture, and that's just crazy. So my biggest concern actually was I had a lot of Camino people following me, a lot of Camino accounts following me, and so my biggest fear was that that some in the Camino community would find it sacrilegious of some nature to do that. People that hike the AT or the PCT or the CDT, if they're in there in the summer at summer solstice, that's hike naked day. So it's just like, it happens when you're out there doing through hikes. It's not like it's something that doesn't hike naked is weird.
Was the negative reaction from the Camino community, or where did that negative
reaction come from? Actually one person one prominent account, I can't remember which one it is, had reposted it on one of their stories and thought it was funny. I was like, okay, great, that's awesome. I think I have at that point I had about 2,900 followers on Instagram, and I lost about 100.
Wow.
And that's just because I think that account's been changed and rebranded several times. So there were people on that account that probably didn't come for that. And and again, I feel like, if you're going to follow me and you're going to be interested in what I'm doing, then you're interested in me as a person. And that was something I wanted to do that day and thought would be fun, and had never seen it before. And so I'm just like, let's do it. You don't want to follow me, great, because there's probably something else I do that you probably aren't going to like either. So you might as well get out of the way now and follow me now. So
well, I think it's a good point. You're talking about your rebranding, because now you're doing your podcast, and it's all about crossing things off your bucket list. And you probably will have things that maybe don't appeal to people, but you're kind of you're taking this big gap year now, the adult gap year, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. But I think that's true. So just being yourself and letting the chips fall where they fall. So when you were walking, you had a kind of a unique experience because you ended up walking with some celebrities. And we're not going to talk, who they were. And I know there's been a lot of gossip about who was out on the Camino. So some people might figure that out. But I just kind of want to talk about what that experience was like to, here you are walking the Camino. And, I think one of the coolest things about the Camino is it does put us all on an even playing field. It doesn't really matter what your job is, doesn't matter where you come from. We're all just there being pilgrims and walking. And at least that's how I feel. So I just wonder, what was it like to actually meet celebrities and walk along with them? How was that experience?
Yeah, I think overall it was a really good experience for the most part. I think, when it's kind of weird to talk about when you're at that level and you've reached a certain set of notoriety in your public life, you approach things differently. And so I did not run into them until I think it was probably close to like the 18th or 19th day out there. And what I had heard from other folks, someone had told me that they were out there, but the stories I had heard was that they had just a couple days before started interacting with people. And so, when you're a celebrity, I'm sure there is a desire for some privacy. And they, although both of them were posting about their journey on Instagram, I think they're still in the midst of it. I think, that's different. That's a choice they make.
Right.
And the interesting thing was I talked to one of them about this topic a little bit once we were walking, because not only did I run into them, but I was able to walk with them for a couple of days. They got into having dinners with folks and lunch and really being more a part of the community. And talked to one of them and I said, is it weird? Is it hard? And they said that in this position, you make choices, and you can purposely be intentful about being seen, or you can purposely be intentful about not wanting to be seen, and you cannot be seen. Yeah. So and they were also very candid that walking around New York or LA, pretty difficult not to be noticed. But out walking through Lyon or any of even the major cities, that if you don't want to be noticed, then part of it is how you carry yourself and what you wear and all that. So so I think it was interesting. It was quite an experience. I had definitely had some people back home that were like, "Oh my gosh,"
I was fangirling because I knew you would run into, and so it was quite interesting to know that and see some of your photos that you didn't really publicize them. They might have been in like a group of 10 photos, but every once in a while they would show up. Yeah. I wonder. You and I were talking earlier about. So many people write Camino books now. And I wonder what the experience was like knowing that you're spending time with folks that might actually write a book. There could even be a movie about some of the experiences you might be sharing. And, I had never really thought about that. I thought about that actually just during this last Camino walk I did as a podcaster, is that, I took off my podcasting hat and, because it's not my story as I'm hearing people's stories while I'm walking. So it's not about sharing their stories. And, it was a very purposeful decision that I made as I started that walk, that this was just going to be a private walk. And I wouldn't be interviewing people during it. So I never really thought about the flip side of, wow, I could be talking to people now that I think about it. I could be talking to someone that's going to write a memoir, and there I'm going to be. And this girl Leigh told me this story. So now you've met somebody that really could happen. Yeah. What does that feel like? And how did that change your interactions? Or have you kind of regretted maybe something you said or a story you told?
This may give away who it is, but but the first day I walked with them for parts of the day, one of them did pull out a small little journal, and it would be
Yeah.
like right after I would say something, or they would ask me a question and I'd answer it, and they would write something, and it happened like 2 or 3 times. And they'd pull out a journal and they start writing while we were even just walking, like not even like we were having meals. It was like boom, like, we were having a conversation. And so at first I was like, that's kind of weird, and then, but at the same time, it's like, it's against your Camino, you're doing what you want to do. And I'm not ashamed of anything I would say, but I know it can be taken out of context or whatever. So,
Sure.
but what's the difference between that and somebody pulling out their video camera, right? And saying, hey, can I ask you these questions, or just being there in someone's video that they're posting on YouTube, or so I mean, it's, to me, that wasn't much different than that. The following day, from the first time it happened, I found out that the person was writing a book.
Oh, okay.
Specifically about the experience. And so then that made it a little weird, because I was still in that, we're on the Camino, we're sharing, it's no big deal. That it was like, that when they would pull out their book, it was like, oh no, what did I just say? Wow. Is that going to be taken out of context? Are they going to use my name? Is that bad? So I think that after I found out that there was being a book written, I was like, ooh, okay, well, all right, well, whatever. It'll be what it'll be.
Okay, well, we're going to be looking forward to the publication of the book and finding out
and like I said
what
earlier,
you said.
Yeah, like I said earlier to you, probably. And once the book comes out, I get a chance to read it. I may like request that we do another episode of this.
Perfect.
I don't know, but yeah. So it was, it was a little weird once I found out, but at the same time, it's just like, okay. But I still, it was weird when it happened, right? So it was. So I would say something, journal would come out. I'm like, oh yeah, whoa. But it wasn't like that caused me to be anxious or have anxiety that would happen again. So I just went back to normal Camino family road conversation, and then it would happen again. It's like, or it happened to somebody else, and I'd be like, that was probably more fun, when it would happen to other people.
We know you'll be one of the first to buy that book, so let's talk as soon as it comes out.
I will pre-order it from Amazon, and I hate Amazon.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. So, this was a big bucket list check off for you, which is your theme for life, really, right now. So I wonder, what was it like when you made that turn, that left turn into the square at the cathedral? What was that moment like for you when you finally arrived and you could officially cross this off? What was going through your mind? How did you feel?
I felt accomplished. I felt happy. And then there was some sadness because I knew what I was about to be missing when I got off the plane. Luckily, we had an extra day. We stayed one night in Santiago. The next day, all my young Italian friends had caught up to us, and we had gotten our Compostelas and we're walking back through the plaza, and they were just walking in, and that was just like totally amazing to see them and be able to take pictures with them and hug them, and it was just so much fun. But then again, that sadness that it's like, oh my gosh, when am I going to see them again? So there were some things that happened when I came home that were a little rough. But at the same time, I knew that my intention was to build relationships, and not just ephemeral ones, here today, gone tomorrow. That I wanted to build relationships that would last. So I am planning to vacation with about 7 or 8 pilgrims in February.
Nice.
And I am going to go back to Europe, probably most likely spend a lot of time in Italy for several months. To do a couple different things, but at the same time, I'm still in contact with a lot of those people, and once I have my plans exactly firmed on travel, my weekends are going to be spent hanging out with my pilgrim family. There's a couple of the young Italians that are trying to make their way over here to the States. They want to come to the States, so I'm helping them network with people to help them do that. And so I knew that it wasn't over. That journey, as we say, the Camino doesn't stop in Santiago, and so I had to find solace in that, and be intentional that was the direction I was moving in my life. So most of the things on my bucket list tend to be pretty communal things.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I started the Camino that I probably wasn't going to be one of those people that are like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I'm going to do it every day for every year for the rest of my life. That people ask me, would you do it again? And I say, if someone that I loved greatly said I wanted to go do it, and would you go do it with me, I would probably have a hard time saying no. But beyond that, I don't think it's something that I would like intentionally plan that I'm going to do this, multiple times in my life.
Well, you have quite a list of things. I'm curious, there was one post or maybe a conversation that we had at one time. I think you might have had on your list doing one of the Japanese pilgrimages or another through hike. And I kind of got the impression that through hiking, long hikes might be off the bucket list now. Did this fulfill that need? Yeah. You're talking about the 88 Temples trek. In Japan. And it's where, I forget the name of the island, but you walk around the island, around the shoreline, and there's 88 temples that you stop at along the way, and it takes quite a bit of time. I think it's almost 2,000 kilometers or something like that. It's a pretty long trip, and so I was like, oh yeah, I could probably do that. And then I started talking to people that do something about it. And they're like, oh, because I'm thinking, you're on the shoreline, you're at sea level, that's easy, no big deal. But then what people tell me is the island does have peaks and valleys right on the shoreline. So it's just like, oh, okay. So physically, I'm not sure if I can do that. On my bucket list is being a trail angel for a week on all 3 of the major through hikes in the United States. Oh, nice. Yeah.
So that is coming together. That might happen this summer.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And again, it's communal because I want to invite other people to join me in being a trail angel with me. So like I'm thinking about, we're going to set up a camp. We're going to have a professional chef. We're going to have doctors, nurses, to give care. We're going to have somebody that can fix equipment. We're going to, I want this to be like a base camp type experience for those hikers at each one of those trails, the PCT, the CDT, and the AT. And so, because I don't think I could do 52. And I on my podcast, I just interviewed somebody that did the AT, completed the AT, and I said I can't do it. She goes, no, don't say that. There's an 83-year-old, and I'm like, I got some stuff going on. I don't think it's going to be a thing for me. I'm not saying other people can't do it after the age of 52, but for me, probably not. But I would like to do that. That seems like I can't be an official, what they call triple crowner for those 3 hikes, because if you complete all 3 of them, you get called triple crowner. But I can be a triple crown trail angel. So,
I love it.
Yeah,
I totally get it. Those things are not on my bucket list either. But being a trail angel, now that I might be able to sign up for. So I want to talk a little bit about. You and I had talked a while ago about how the Camino transforms you, how it changes your life, and you had a pretty major change. So you came home and you had a major change in your life. And I don't know, was that something that you had planned prior, or did this kind of evolve during your Camino? So I'm referring to coming home and quitting your job and taking this adult gap year. So was that already in the thinking, or was this something that came up for you as an idea during your Camino?
Yeah. So I think it was always in the back of my mind that it was possible. But it wasn't something that I spent a lot of time thinking about when I was on the community. I was so focused on building community that it wasn't really a thing. And then 3 days after I got home, even actually before I got back to work, a direct report of mine called me and said, I'm quitting this week. and so we talked, and the whole premise of her quitting was that she just wanted to take time for herself and focus on things that made her happy. It wasn't like she'd gotten a better job or that she was looking to switch industries or anything like that. She's like, I just need to take some time for myself and make myself happy and use my labor for myself. And so that's where the decision was, probably the 1st of October. I gave a 2-week notice.
Wow.
Actually, it was 2 weeks later. It was the last week of September. I gave a 2-week notice. And so yeah, it was it was a big change. And so
That's a
I'm like,
huge
I want to do
change.
that. Yeah.
Did you feel?
I've heard. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you. Did you feel those Camino blues upon arrival, and did that play into saying, "Hey, I got to make a change in my life"?
So the biggest thing that happened, I mean, that's part of it, but the biggest thing that happened was I had made a reel on Instagram that was just like a slideshow of all selfies I had taken with a lot of people that I had met on the Camino, just to kind of say thank you to those people, like being a part of it. And I got back, and I for the most part, I had been pretty private about my Instagram account with my coworkers. But I had one person in particular that I had a good relationship for the past 4 years, a good working relationship, good friendship. And so I showed her this reel. And after she got done watching it and seeing me with these other people, she's like, in 4 years, I've never seen you that happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it just made me sad that I'd worked with this group of people for 4 or 5 years. And she's sitting there telling me she had never seen me that happy in that time frame. And I just thought to myself, I don't ever want to meet or have a relationship with anybody else that doesn't see me like that, and know me like that, being happy, being joyful, being passionate. And so that was the decision that kind of, broke the camel's back. The straw that broke the camel's back was that I don't want to live like that anymore. And I want to use my labor for myself and for the benefit of the people that I want to have relationships with. And so that's where it kind of came from. It was, and so I call it adult gap year. Some people call it fun employed. You can call it whatever you want, but basically to describe it to people is I'm only going to do things that make me happy. That's it.
Wow.
I'm
That
only
is
going to do things that make me
profound.
happy. Yeah. And so I quit. I'm going to have to take some retirement, take out some retirement money to be able to support myself for a while until hopefully maybe some things will happen that I can keep doing that, right? That I can keep living my life that way. I would love for the podcast to explode and for people to, for it to be able to produce some income. I have the goal of writing 2 or 3 books this year. And so, and doing something intentional to make that happen. If one of those or all 3 of them take off, that might help me, be able to sustain this. But I'm gonna go out there and take that chance. I deserve it. We all deserve it, but I deserve it, and it's not a risk. If it's making me happy, it's not a risk. Even if I don't make any of my money back, even if I don't, I have to go back to the grind. It's not a risk. I'm going to be very, very happy for a year. It's been a slow start. The quitting my job experience was extremely stressful. I have a history of heart conditions. I wound up having to have a week into my 2-week notice. I had another stent put in, and wound up missing my last week on the job. And since then, I've just been trying to get my body re-regulated with all the medications, and been dealing with some anxiety around all these decisions and stuff. And so just getting myself newly acclimated to what my new life is going to be. But the first year after the holidays are over, I'm going to go full bore, and I've really found that part of my healing has been that I need to do stuff, do things, and because for a while there I was just paralyzed. couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so just one day I kick in and I'm like, I'm gonna clean up my bedroom and I'm gonna, I'm gonna send some emails to people I'd like to see on my podcast, and and it's moving forward, and I'm really excited, because I think there's a lot of people that are experiencing the same kind of stuff. And like we talked about earlier, there's this whole COVID trauma that the people are trying to live with and learn what is the new normal, or what is, not even what is normal, not new normal, but what is normal. And so I think there's a lot of people dealing with it. I'm trying to get an interview with a young woman that she has become a professional mermaid. I've interviewed people that have completed the AT, the Camino. I've interviewing one guy that he has a regular job, but he has the intention of meeting lots of famous people, and he's met tons of famous people. And so we're going to talk about the one that he's that was the hardest get, or the one that was most important to him. And really the whole point of the podcast is it's not about my story at all. It's about other people. I mean, I get to share some stuff, but it's really about other people's stories. And what they've crossed off their list. And the hope is, yes, there might be one listener out there that says, "Oh, I'd like to be a professional mermaid." But the reality is, I just want her to tell her story so that people can see that whatever it is, whatever crazy thing that, that other people might say is crazy, that it's possible. And so sharing those processes of how people get to those points is what's almost even more important than the stories themselves. What's that process you went through to make that goal happen, or to cross that off your list?
I love it. I think it's such a creative idea for a podcast, and it's really going to encourage people to go out there. It's not everybody has a different bucket item probably, and I think just hearing these stories is going to encourage them to go for it. I wonder where we're at our time now, but I wanted to see if maybe Ruth might want to join us, because she joined you in Syria and finished that last 100 kilometers. And I wonder if maybe she might want to say hi to everyone and just ask her a couple of questions before we finish up. So it's so exciting for me to be talking to Roger and catching up after talking to him when he first arrived in Astorga. So I hope everyone is enjoying our conversation today and hearing about the transformation that took place. His story, just about seeing that reel and how that he was so happy there, and how that prompted him, the comment from his coworker prompted him to make this huge change in his life and take this adult gap year is really exciting. So loving that story, Roger, I think. Yeah,
it was. I wanted to cry when she said that to me. I was just like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. So here comes Ruth, your lovely partner.
Most definitely. Our dog's in here too. But
good. What kind of dog?
Pitbull.
A pitbull. Hey Ruth, I feel like I know you from seeing your posts with Roger for your Camino. So it's so nice to meet you officially.
Yes, you too.
Thank you for popping in. And Roger and I have been having a great conversation today, catching up. And I just wondered what it was like to join him when you did in Syria. And, what was your first impression seeing him? Because he had, been on Camino for a couple of weeks and walked a lot of miles, had a lot of experiences. So, did you see any change in him? Was he a little bit different? Or what were your thoughts when you first got to see him there in Syria?
Yes. Well, first he was suntanned and slim. That's what I thought, like, wow, he's really got a tan going. And then he was relaxed. He was a little bit in pain, but he seemed like he was just in it, in the moment. And that was really nice to see.
Yeah. I can imagine. We were talking about that photo you took of him at the 100-mile marker.
Yes, that was so funny. I just thought, oh yeah, it was really kind of present. He was present, and that was fun to see him when I first saw him. Yeah.
The funny thing was is when I told you we had some people pass us by. The person that we had talked to earlier in the day passed by and asked if she wanted to also get naked, and he would take the picture.
I was like, no, thank you. I didn't quite have the same experience around it. I was excited about the 100-kilometer bike. Okay. Yeah.
That would have been something. So how was your experience in walking? Was doing the Camino on your bucket list, or do you have a bucket list?
I do, but it wasn't necessarily, I hadn't heard of it, maybe from a couple of people, and then really when I met Roger, but it sounded amazing, and I was really pleased to do the last part with him. That seemed like a good amount of time, at least for my first time. And
what had you done before the 2 weeks before you met?
Oh yes, so I went to Barcelona. I decided, well, if I'm coming to meet him, I would like to travel around Spain first. So I went 2 weeks. I started in Barcelona and then went to Sevilla and Granada, to the Costa del Sol a little bit, yes, and then to Madrid, and then I met him. So that was really wonderful too. But then we started walking. It was so fun to see him and just start out walking with him and catch up a little bit. And then we just started walking. And what I was reflecting on, I love the nature. I was concerned about his leg. We had to stop a few times and do a little massaging of the leg, but just the scenery. I didn't feel as conspicuous as I thought I might starting in Sevilla, like with new shoes and
equipment that wasn't dirty.
Yeah, I was trying to just fit in, but I could imagine. I saw people, and I was mindful that just from hearing Roger, that people had been journeying for a long time. And this is, I was bright and, like, yay, this is fun.
Right. Did you feel that a little bit from her, Roger? That like she was like, oh, this is fun. And you've been like, oh my God, this has been hard.
So I'll tell you the exact story. We had started walking that first day and met two gentlemen from England, and they were talking about their story, and she was like, how long have you been walking? They're like, oh, we started today. And he's like, yeah, we started today. She goes, yeah, I started today too. And all I said was F off. I just wanted just F off.
Yeah, because we were all like, yeah, we started today. Yeah, that was hilarious. And then they were laughing, and that was, I knew if you kind of tell it was hard to tell, but people who had just started the journey and people have been going for a while. But and then about 6 hours into the first day, I thought, wow, okay, we're really doing this. And
this is no walk in the park.
Yeah, this is gonna be something.
Well, and that first day you're walking the Porto, and you have to go down that steep, crazy, trail. Then you gotta go across the bridge, and then there's that crappy
steps.
There at the steps of doom, and it was just like, yeah, this is what it's like.
And then tell her the story. The funny part of that story is once we got to a restaurant there, we made it. We're like, okay, because it took us. We didn't start super early, so we walked for like 9 hours or.
We got there around 5:30.
Around 5:30, and we had dinner, and we asked the one of the employees to call us a cab. To our albergue, and he said, it's only about
150 meters. Yeah. 150 meters.
Oh, I thought it was 500.
No,
and Roger were just like, it's okay, just go ahead and call it, because we were like, we could not walk anymore, even up the hill. So we just went up the hill, and we were laughing, but we were relieved. And then on the way down the next morning, I was like, oh yeah, it really wasn't that far. But
at the end of the day, you're tired, right? And I think I would say, Ruth, my first Camino was walking from Montegrero. to Santiago. And so I've had that experience where, you know, the people that had started in Saint Jean seeing, you know, us being clean and excited and, you know, but it didn't mean that our walk was not challenging. There's still a challenge no matter where you start. And it's still a Camino, I think, no matter where you start. And because you're still walking a lot of miles each day, no matter where you start.
Yes, I've done quite a few half marathons, and I thought, oh, okay, this is like, I mean, I ran some of them. This is more than a half marathon every single day, right?
Yes.
Like, and was it after the second night, I was like, wow, I'm really tired. I think I had a rash, like something going on, and you know, that was I knew I was in it.
Yeah, exactly. So what did it feel like for you when you arrived in the square, and you know, your own experience as well as watching Roger really check off this huge bucket list item? What were you feeling?
It was amazing. I was so excited, but to get through the city, but I think I thought it would be like, of course.
She was actually pissed because I was pushing for us to get there so that we could go to the noon service at the cathedral.
Oh, so you left early, and
we left by headlamp, and we left in the dark, and I thought, okay, we're gonna get there. And
she was excited and pushing because she thought that's what I wanted. And then when I got there, I'm like, yeah, we can just go to the hotel. I don't have to go.
We could go to the night.
So she was like,
so I was kind of like, what? That was because it was, you know, when we finally got to the square. Another thing, I was also like expecting people to be in the city to say, boy, you know, really be excited about us. But so many people go through, but it's like an average day for them, right? They're just going about their business, and meanwhile, we're just like,
you want to shout out to everybody, look what I did.
I thought, this is not about me. So, but I was mad for a minute, and I thought, okay, because we're all sweaty, but I was like, I thought he really wanted to make that noon mass. And so then I was like, what? But then I just reveled in the moment and watched Roger just lay on the ground. Yeah. And then take a couple of pictures. And then was it later that day after I thought it was I'm kind of mixing up my days, but to see the Italian kids, especially the group that he had been with, come in and greet Roger, because Roger was watching up, and then I cried watching their that experience, and I really enjoyed taking pictures, and it just the weight of that journey, that long journey. I mean, I felt it with Roger when he got there, like, but then seeing some of the people he walked with and experienced that with was really powerful and really magical, actually. So the church and the whole city was just a wonderful place. I really felt just happy to be there, and happy to be there with Roger too, and also to sleep in a bit the next day.
I bet. Well, what a unique opportunity you had. You know, it's always fun watching people's Camino experiences as they're, you know, posting on Instagram or Facebook. And so here you are watching him as he's going, and then you get to join him, and you have this joint Camino at the end. And then, like you said, you get to meet the people that you've been seeing in some of these photos that he's been talking about. I would think that would be so cool.
Yeah, it was really powerful. I was worried, like, I thought, oh no, is it gonna be hard with us? Or because he wishes he was with them, or how is this gonna be? But hopefully, I mean, it was different for him, but right?
But we did really well. I mean, I think the advice I got and that I shared earlier about this was now our Camino, and I had to recognize that. I think it took time to get myself in the mindset to do that. But I think it's just our relationship too. It was, you know, it was just it was just like being at home. We were laughing together like we normally do. We were talking about other stuff like we normally do, and it was good for me just to have her there. Like, it was, as much as I miss those other people, as I wanted her to be there with me doing it as well. And we didn't really
Well,
skip a beat,
No,
as far as what our relationship looked like.
well, you had a post. You had a post, I think, Roger, talking about by the time that you got to Syria or whatever, or near there, that you were kind of done and you were homesick, missing things. And so it was kind of a breath of fresh air for you to have Ruth join you and
Comfort.
have a taste of home, right?
Yeah, it was comfort.
yeah.
Definitely comfort.
And
Yeah.
actually for me too, because he bought us bracelets for Christmas the last year that had the coordinates for Syria.
Longitude, latitude.
Longitude, and that was so sweet. So I wore that the whole time, and that was kind of a good present. And
That's a great present.
I wore it, and then it was kind of a compass. I had it to look forward to, or times I experienced a little bit of loneliness on the trip or on my solo travels. It was great to have that to look forward to. So that was coming home for me too. And then the scenery kind of looks like the Northwest in that section.
Yes. Doesn't
Right?
it?
So I was like, oh, we're walking along this lovely journey. And I talked to my dad.
A little longer hikes than we normally take.
Yeah, exactly. But it is lovely. That whole Galicia area really does remind me of the Pacific Northwest or Ireland, and it's just very comforting to be in that. I was just thinking how cool it probably was for Roger's Camino family to actually then be able to meet you after hearing about you, I'm sure. And like that you guys just kind of brought everything full circle. That would be so cool to meet the spouses and then, people that I've heard about from my Camino family. How cool.
The Americans that I was walking with before I met her, that they kept prodding me to bring her to Santiago the night that they finished, and then take a cab back to wherever we were so that they could meet her. Like, they were like, we want to meet her. So they were, and they are the ones that we're going to most likely spend some time with in February. So it was nice.
That's fantastic.
So it was, they will meet her, but And then when we got back, one of them came to Seattle the following week for a wedding. Goodness. So we actually spent a day with her and took her around Seattle, and we got to meet Kylie, and so that was a lot of fun.
That was so fun. So much energy too, and just like, wow, I'm just so impressed with people who do the whole journey, the whole way. Yeah.
It's just so cool for me to see how these relationships start and they continue long after the Camino, which is just, I think, a gift from the Camino that you don't even realize you're going to get when you take that first step. And it's just amazing.
And we talked, it's all about intentionality, right? You have to be intentional about it. And there are some people I met along the way that I have not communicated with since I've gotten back. And there's quite, a couple dozen that I have. And if you're not into that and that's not, something you want to get out of it, I get it. That's fine. But I think a lot of the conversations I think we had on the Camino is how do you do that intentionally afterwards, and how do you make that happen? So I think it's that word intentionality. You got to be intentional about it. And it was interesting having the majority of those that I walked with towards the end before I met Ruth were Americans. And so it was a little bit easier walking away from those on the Camino, like saying goodbye, because I figured most likely I'm going to see these folks again. But when I ran into the Italians, we had already said goodbye once, and now all of a sudden I got to say goodbye again. So to me, it's really bad because I'm like, I gotta say goodbye again, and there's less likelihood that I'm going to see these folks again unless I make it intentional to do that. Whether inviting them to come here to the States or to go visit, I got to be intentional about it because they're worth it. Those relationships are worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my goodness, we've gone way over our 45 minutes, so we're going to have to wrap up. But oh my gosh, I have so enjoyed having this conversation. Ruth, getting to meet you is a delight, and Roger, it's so good catching up with you and hearing the rest of your story after Astorga and then getting back home to Seattle. And I'm so excited to see what happens for you guys going forward. And I just want to mention to everyone to check out your podcast, Cross Their Offer, and to check out your Instagram so they can see all the photos we've been talking about and follow the rest of your journey. So congratulations for both of you for completing your Caminos. And I hope that the journey just continues to be great for you. So thank you so much for coming and talking today.
Yeah.
Thanks. You as well.
People can find the podcast. It's called the Crossing It Off podcast, and it's available.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. And it's all.
Yeah, sorry about that. Crossing It Off podcast. I'm always just saying your Instagram name.
So you can find, and people can find it on every podcast streaming service and YouTube. So
okay, I'll also put the links.
Thanks. Great. Thanks. I look forward to following your journey as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen, I feel like the Camino has changed my entire life. And so it was really fun on this last walk to be meeting people and just knowing what's about to happen for them, not the exact thing, but how much their lives are going to transform. And I think this interview is going to show everyone that, big things happen. I mean, look at all the things that have happened just since your Camino. So it's really exciting to watch. So I'm going to stop the recording if you guys will stay on so we can just say goodbye.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everybody for watching. Please, if you've enjoyed the conversation, please indicate on Apple Podcasts, give us a thumbs up, a review there, as well as on YouTube. And just keep listening. If you're enjoying this, if you know someone that I should interview, please let me know. I love talking to pilgrims. And, my hope with this always is that you hear something in our stories that prompts you to want to go take the walk on the Camino. And I can't imagine hearing this that you wouldn't want to walk. So anyway, until next time, everyone, take care and buen camino.
Buen camino.
Que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free as a bird now, with my feathered